And welcome back to Friday Briefing. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's time now to get to know our guest anchor a little bit more before we see them read the news. And tonight, like I mentioned earlier on, we have Vimal Shah, who's the CEO of Bidco and a serious industrialist in this country. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Betty.
Did you at one point in your life know that you'd be reading news to Kenyans?
No. This is a surprise. You invited me, and it's a surprise. So.
Are you looking forward to it, though?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
How do you think you'll fare on a scale of 1 to 10?
Let people tell us.
Okay, fine. I will tell you first. I'm a very good teacher.
Fine.
All right, so first question, and I've seen quite a number of people, really wanting to know how you made your first million and at what age?
Well, I started this business with my father and my brother together about 31 years ago. And we invested a lot of money, but we borrowed from friends and, from family and from banks.
Friends were willing to give you money to invest in a company?
Yes.
You have really good friends.
Yes, it wasn't too much, but it was still
Something.
Good help, yeah.
All right.
And when we made our first million, I think the toughest thing is making your first million. And thereafter, it gets easier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Because you got to plow back, you got to put it back in, and then you start getting rewards, at least after 1 or 2 years. And we just plowed it all back. We just kept on plowing it back, and we haven't harvested. We're still planters.
You're still planting?
We're still planting, we're still continuing, we're still expanding.
So at what point will you start to harvest?
I don't think we're harvesters. We're actually looking for growth, and from a small plant, we've now grown into a bigger plant. We've grown into 3, 4 countries now, and we expect to, keep growing.
All right, because, the reason I'm asking this is that, a number of young people, once they make the first million, they're thinking, okay, maybe I need a vacation finally, or maybe I need a brand new car, fancy thing, the fancy side of life. Yeah.
I think it's something that you should have, but have it later on after you're really solid and robust, and you know that you're going to have sustainability. But to start saying, I made my million, now let me go and spend it all across, you'll get a good car, but then you won't have fuel. So I think sustainability is first, and the rest just follows. And
so you mentioned that you started your company with your brother and your father. That was one of the questions that I had. Was it an inheritance that was handed over to you, and now you're taking the full mantle of it? Or, how did it grow to be where it is right now? How did Vimal Shah become Vimal Shah? So this was started by 3 of us, and all 3 of us are still in the business today. So it's from scratch? From zero. Okay. We had nothing on the ground. Right. We had no business, no industry in the FMCG area. Right. And my father did have a clothing factory, Bidco clothing factory before that. But from when we went to FMCG, zero from scratch from day one. And we actually went and sold goods ourselves, drove trucks down to retailers, down to various places in Kenya. And initially it was difficult. It's not easy. And it's not easy to start anything right now. I think it depends. Today, it is much more easier to start off and really get a lot more mileage, because now you've got the benefit of internet, you've got, availability of knowledge online, which was not there before. The speed of things have increased a lot. However, I think it just needs people to have a clear-cut goal and an idea of where do you want to really go. And you can't spread yourselves too thin. Many young people, Vimal, have great ideas. I mean, you speak to young people in this country, and they have some of the best ideas if it's, in innovation. But the issue is always capital. How do you start? And you speak very many times to young people. What do you tell them? A young person who's watching right now, they want to start something, but the money is a problem. Is going to the bank to get some sort of financing the best option? I think it depends on what your business plan is. First of all, a lot of people need to put down their business plan. They need to see what are the revenues, what are the costs, and how they're going to really make the business sustainable, number one. Number two, I don't think there's a shortage of capital. It's about pooling together and saying, come together. Right. A lot of young people want to do it themselves. They don't want to share their ideas. They want to get their financing themselves. And if they can't get it, they say, I'm stuck. If 4 or 5 friends had ideas, and if all of them put them together and says, here's our capital is the idea and the technology. There's enough capital available to say, fine, here they can give you venture capital, or they can give you funding to start that up. And you got to start small. We had the same issue. We started off with a big project. Right. While in university, did a whole project to say, let's go around and tell the banks we need a lot of money. Right. And the banks advised us, hang on, start small, aim big,
but start one step at a time.
Okay.
And that's important for young people today.
All right. Let's also talk about how you've been able to sustain your company all through the years. You mentioned 31 years. I mean, that is no mean feat. What is it that you're doing right?
I think first and foremost, it's being in the right sector that you want to be in, number one. Number two, being focused in what you want to do.
Right.
We're in FMCG. We could have easily gone into technology. We would have gone into real estate. We could have gone into, selling hardware, furniture,
Yes.
or in media. And we didn't. We said we'll stay focused, be in the business we're in, and become best in that. Again, looking at the customer and what your customer's needs are, changing yourself all the time. We had to change every year. Even now, we keep on changing and really having it a very agile situation. Today, with systems, with information systems, you can do a lot more. But I think the attitude is important, number one. Number two, a vision that's long-term. And again, aligning with your passion. When you align with your passion, you don't really have to work.
Really? How is that?
When
Can you say that you're doing what you've always wanted to do right now?
It's the difference between a have to. If my job was a have to and a wish to, there's a big difference.
Okay.
When it's a wish to or a want to, I want to do it, and therefore it's not work, it's fun. And you enjoy doing it. Whereas when it's a have to and you got to go to work on Monday morning, it's a tough job. And really people are slogging it out. Rather than that, find your passion, identify it and say, fine, I'm going to go with it, make it happen.
So when you're talking, it sounds like it's been a smooth ride all along. Like you found whatever you needed to do, that niche market for you at that time, and you went straight for it. Have you ever had days that you don't want to wake up because things are just not working?
Obviously, I mean, it was a few 4 or 5 years before we actually started the whole production that we had sleepless nights, right? Thinking about, are we on the right track? Are we doing the right thing? You have a very good plan. You have a good idea, and that's just out of university.
Yeah.
And going to banks and, all the letdowns, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, and nobody funded us. Even when I started off selling insurance, you go to people and say, hey, you need life insurance. They say, hey, I'm not going to die.
So you were selling insurance?
Yes. I was an agent for insurance, American life insurance.
How old were you at that time?
18.
Wow. So you started this thing early?
While I was in university.
Okay.
Yeah. Started looking at that, started looking at business. But you get, out of 100, you get 98 or 99 rejections. And you got to be adapting to that. So I said, forget it, it's not for me. We need to look at other things.
And then you found now the footing.
Yes, we said, let's go to value addition because my father was in the cotton business and making garments. So we said, let's go backwards into cotton farming and the whole value chain. Put up a whole project together thinking that money would be available.
Yeah.
So the idea was there, but the execution was not able to, we're not able to do it because the capital was lacking. So we had to start small, aim big, and each one, we're still doing the same thing, same vision. But we had a clear-cut long-term goal.
So it's all about the goal.
So the goal was at that time to be in the full value chain of cotton and go right on from cotton farming up to processing into oils, animal feeds, the whole lot. We're doing it right now, and we're doing it across many countries.
So let's talk about how your day is like. Because many CEOs you talk to, they tell you have to be up by 3 a.m., go to the gym, read the newspaper. Is that the same thing with you?
No, I think 5 o'clock, 5:30 is
so it's
my
not
wake-up
3
time.
at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
So around 5-ish, and then of course read up a lot. I read up a lot. And these days with the mobile phones, you read a lot online.
So you go on your Twitter feed or something?
And that's the problem. That's the other problem. There's a distraction.
Is that the first thing you do when you wake up? Go first to your phone and check
Unfortunately, you want to see your messages and see what's happening there, but you want to see the news. But I
Yeah.
read books too.
Okay.
I love reading books, and I think I read at least an hour or two every day.
Every day?
Every single day.
Okay.
And read up on different things. So once you read up, you get, a wider knowledge, and thereafter, have breakfast. I arrange my meetings to be at 7 o'clock in the morning, so that we beat traffic. We actually arrange all that stuff, do it in Nairobi, and then go to Thika.
Every single day you go to Thika?
I go to Thika every day, 5 days a week, and work in Thika and come back in the evenings. But I have a lot of other things because 50% of my time is spent on other items, like KEPSA and other things,
Right.
social stuff. I'm on universities. There's a lot of other extracurricular that I do.
Okay. Let's talk about, we've seen you, very, very vocal when it has come to election matters. We're heading to a period of elections. Right now, the stocks are not looking really, really good for us. I think we've dropped about 200 points. Are you worried as somebody who does business in Kenya? We have elections coming up in a few months. Are you worried that things, may go south?
I think there are two things right now. I'm not worried that there's something's going to go wrong. That doesn't worry me. I think the issue is, what's worrying right now is the narrative. And Kenya is in such a unique position right now. We're in such a good place. And the narrative is all negative. And I think this needs to change.
When you say narrative, what does that mean?
The narrative right now, people think, is just everything is corrupt. Corruption is in, it's big time, and we've got problems. And I ask people, how many bribes have you paid? Betty, let me ask you a question. In the last 1 week, how many bribes have you paid?
None at all, completely.
And I have not paid any too.
Right.
So the point is, the narrative is like everything is corrupt. And ask Kenyans, as many of your viewers as possible, how many of them have paid bribes? Yes, some have paid them. It's normally the police for speeding or whatever, or to get out of jail, somehow.
Or NTSA.
And get out of any problems.
When you're arrested for alcohol
and
or
the
something.
councils have a problem with the county councils, stuff like that, water or something. Sometimes it's speed money. But the narrative is going negative, and I think that's wrong. Kenya in Africa today is in a very fantastic position. We've got investments coming in. People want to invest in our country, but we're just turning it all negative. And elections will come every 5 years. Why should we be scared of elections? What are we doing? We're choosing a new CEO for our country. So what does it matter? In terms of vision, in terms of alignment, we're all aligned in terms of progress. We want to create jobs. We want free and fair elections. We want to make sure it happens in a non-violent manner. And I think that's what every Kenyan wants. The question is, why the fear? Because the fear of 2007, 2008,
Right.
when we had post-election violence.
Right.
And I think that's important to address. And I think it comes back to every single leader to address that and say, sorry, I'm not going to be violent at all. I'm not going to be having any hate speech at all. And therefore, bring out credibility. We need to have accountability and transparency in leadership. We need to have everybody saying together that I want to be non-violent.
Okay.
And I think every single leader out there, whoever in government or out of government or candidate standing for any election, should actually say, I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to make sure we're not going to be violent. If you have issues, bring them out as issues, but do not go back and say, I'll be violent and I'll hit people back.
All right. As we move on to you reading the news, how do you balance between work and family?
So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? 1/3 family, 1/3 business, and 1/3 society and friends. Okay? And when you put that together...
So you do that perfectly, like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? Most of us is probably 2/3
Unfortunately, with people like us, we have business takes a portion, but extracurricular stuff takes up a lot of time. We eat up into family time.
Okay.
And the point is, I have a very supportive family. I have a supportive wife, Manda, a supportive son who's he's finishing his school this year. And I have a very good family who says supporting all that I do outside.
All right.
So really you need to balance that out. But sometimes the balance gets descaled, it gets off the scale.
All right, so let's move on to the news set.
Sure.
As you prepare to read the news. And the other thing is that, being in the public limelight, things can go south sometimes. And you have people who, saying all manner of things about you.
That's normal.
It's normal?
That's
so how do you
normal.
handle that? The smear campaigns online and everything?
I think it's important. The important thing is that you know who you are. Once you know who you are, once your conscience is clear, once you're doing the right thing, that's important. Knowing that is the solace, number one. Number two, make sure that all your people know about it. Smear campaigns will come to anybody who's successful. It is normal. And today, again, with social media and all that stuff, there's a lot of unsubstantiated negative news that comes out. Now, you don't want to react to every one of those stories because you then start having a fight online. And really, you're KTN, you have a responsibility, ni wajibu wetu.
Yeah.
So you have something that's responsible. But people on social media sometimes have no responsibility. They just blurt out and say things. You don't want to react to all that stuff. But once you know who you are, you don't worry about it.
You don't worry about it. All right, so keep the questions coming. I'm sure there are quite a number of them online already.